More NFL draft coverage as we have another spotlight segment here on Sweep the League. We've got a great guest. We're going to be talking about Will Anderson, and is he on the decline? The top three quarterbacks in this draft class, I've considered it a pretty bad year for quarterbacks, but nonetheless, there are three quarterbacks everybody's talking about. And a fourth that we will talk about, and Anthony Richardson. Is he overrated? Are people just in love with his mobility? What is up with Anthony Richardson? Plus, we've got a Cowboy question, of course, because we've got someone on the show that's a Cowboy fan. Nonetheless, this is Sweep the League. It is another spotlight segment. It is Rudy Campos Jr. I am joined by the most electrifying man in podcast history, the Rock himself, Rocky Garza. Rock, you're back for another mock draft show, man. Are you ready for this one, man?
Yeah, dude, and I'm excited to ask, our guests today about the Cowboys and what they're going to do, because I know it's a very controversial topic every year when who the Cowboys should draft.
It is a controversial topic because all you boys think that it is your year, and it just tends to fall short every single year. But nonetheless, we're going to get into that in a little while here. Before we introduce you to our great guest tonight, I got to remind you guys, hey, Special Leaf Tea. Now, it's an energy boosting drink. It's without the use of caffeine, 100% all natural ingredients. So that means no added sugar. They've got 4 ridiculously good flavors: pomegranate blueberry, tangerine ginger, the ever so popular hibiscus blueberry, as well as for all you guys out there that like the original, they have the original flavor. Order your drinks today. You can get them in a 4-pack. You can get them in a 24-pack. However you want, just head to the website now, www.specialleaf.com, to order your drinks today. We're not going to waste any more time. We're going to get into it here. We've got a very special guest tonight. You can follow him on Twitter. It's at First Round Mock. Mr. Daniel Kelly, former New York Jets scout. You can also go to his website. It's firstroundmock.com. Daniel, welcome to Sweep the League. We appreciate you joining Rock and myself.
Hey guys, it's so good to be on the show and meet you guys. Thank you so much, Rocky and Rudy. I can't wait. Let's put the ball in the tee and let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. You know, I thought for a minute you said Rocky, and I thought, I hope he doesn't say Bullwinkle at the end, because that would make me feel terrible here. The Rocky and Bullwinkle podcast show. We got to start something like that, Rock. Hey, but, again, we appreciate you being on with us. We look forward to doing a lot more shows with you as we have the NFL draft coming up very, very soon. We have free agency coming up in March. I think that's going to affect a little bit of what happens in the draft when we see certain quarterbacks go to certain areas. But nonetheless, let's get started. Will Anderson. Now, for Mel Kiper, for a lot of these guys, Will Anderson was and kind of still is the top prospect in this draft. I had Will Anderson as a top prospect going into this draft for a very long time. Jalen Carter grew on me. I started watching more film on Jalen Carter. He obviously has taken over that top prospect. I still have him going to the Bears. I'm hoping the Bears do not trade that pick, even though it is likely they are going to move that pick. I still like Jalen Carter going number 1. But recently you've had some info on Will Anderson, kind of lackluster, kind of shows a little bit of laziness on the on some videos. What can you give us on Will Anderson on this sense of, is his stock dropping to where he might even drop further than 2 or 3 in the draft? We've seen guys like Myles Murphy. We've seen guys like Tyree Wilson just starting to shoot up these draft boards. Is that lackluster performance here and there? Is that lack of caring for Will Anderson going to affect his draft status?
Well, that's a great question, and it does in my mind for sure. In a recent article at the site at firstroundmock.com, I put a second round grade on him as somebody who's worked in the league. To me, it's not a matter if he's going 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And the second round pick, it helps to mitigate the risk of what you're touching on, Rudy, because it's just flat out laziness, is what I'll call it, on game film. I mean, it was and I looked at extensive game film. I mean, that's what we pride ourselves in a first round mock. Everything we do is driven by the game film. All of our opinions are offered, are predicated upon the game film. And we're actually, I believe, probably the only draft site in America that I'm aware of that actually offers the links to the games to the fans, so you can see what we're looking at, and we're held accountable to our opinions. So I went back, I looked at them in 7 games spanning 2 seasons. In 2021, I looked at them against Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Georgia. 2022, Texas, Arkansas, LSU, and Tennessee. Listen, I think every NFL owner, general manager, scout across the boards owes it to themselves, their franchise, and their fan base. If they're looking at Will Anderson, you've got to turn on the Alabama Tennessee game. Will Anderson was downright embarrassing in the game, it's just something that's really concerning because with Anderson, he looks the part. I mean, he looks pretty. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? When you look at his build and the way he looks, I posted the picture on. This guy's chiseled. This guy looks almost like a statue. He's chiseled, a muscular guy. He's got those big long arms, that you love, that you can lock out with, and he's a bully. But what he is he's a very rigid bully, rigid in the terms of his movements, and he's a very low motor guy that has the ability to play with a lot of power, but his first step is pretty mediocre most of the time. Most of the time, he was just content getting hung out to dry, like clothes on a clothesline, as I like to say in scouting, and it just didn't look like he was inspired to play football in 2022. And then, of course, I'm not, people say, well, you're a stats scout. I throw up the stats. No, the stats confirm the evaluation in a lot of cases. I mean, when we look at the stats of Will Anderson, from 21 to 22, for example, his tackles were slashed in half this year, guys. He went from 101 tackles down to 53. He had the huge 17 and a half sacks in 21. That dropped off to the 10. I mean, dropped off, right? I mean, still a lot of sacks. And the pressures dropped off from 81 to 59. So the drop off wasn't just, it showed in his stats, not just on the game film. So all the way around, that's what made this evaluation pretty tricky, because when you get guys that, show they have the ability, like a Micah Parsons, for example, who I called and labeled as an explosive underachiever pre-draft 2021, documented online. When you got guys like this that show they have the ability, I mean, when he turns it on, sure, but the problem is these guys you're picking the top 5. These are like Hall of Fame type caliber picks, potentially, right? These are the gamers. These are the cream of the crop in the draft class. So when you're bringing a guy that you're going to be paying millions of dollars, you're going to help. It's going to be part of the face of your franchise. It's going to really set the tone in the locker room. I don't know about you guys, but the last thing in the world, he's not even on my draft board. Based on what he showed. And I gave him a second round grade because, I learned from Bill Belichick, that, every team in the league's got 400 or 500 guys on the draft board. Bill had about 70 guys on his board after the first Super Bowl, about 41 after his second Super Bowl. So, yeah, he'll get drafted by somebody, sure. 53% of first rounders historically are bust. But, when you look at a Will Anderson, if I'm a GM of a team, he's not even on the board. His name card's not even in that room. I mean, that's how bad it was on game film. It was really, really bad. And, it was very concerning, actually, both against the pass. And 75% of the time, he didn't even look, he looked like he was completely and utterly disinterested against the run in game film.
Yeah, we're talking to Daniel Kelly at First Round Mock. You can follow him on Twitter. It's at First Round Mock, giving a grade, basically letting you know, guys, on Will Anderson. As popular as he is coming into the draft and as highly touted as he is, Daniel's giving you some great perspective on what he's seen. He's got him at a second round grade. Like I said, I've kind of started to look a little bit more into Will Anderson. I'm not liking exactly what I'm seeing. I'm kind of seeing what Daniel sees as well. And I'm glad you're talking about the scouting part, because Rock has a question in regards to scouting that he wanted to ask you, Daniel. But before I give it to Rock on that, we are going to talk about some quarterbacks that are in here on this year's draft with Daniel Kelly of First Round Mock. Rock, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, just hearing that is actually kind of a surprise to my ears, because me, just being I guess would say not more than a casual fan, you see these type of guys and you see them dominate college. But I guess if I dive really into, like the film like you and Rudy do, and just looking at it, you see those qualities. But I just wanted to ask, for anyone that's listening, and, maybe has an idea of wanting to become a scout, what are some things they can do just to get more knowledge and just, I guess, just kind of a basis of really how to grade these prospects, because, to the average eye, you're like, well, you see this guy, he's disruptive, he's a champion. this and that, but then you don't really dive into it. So like, what are some things, some fans can do to get into scouting? Like what were some like things you did personally to learn more about the game?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rock. Back when I started at 17 years old, really, I mean, I grew up a fanatical fan of the Washington Redskins. That was the name of the team back then. And, I didn't get big enough to play. I was, about 130 pounds soaking wet. My dream of playing linebacker at Penn State went out the window, so, for my 17th birthday, my parents gave me a book that I'll pass along to your point with the question they get for my 17th birthday. I mean, this is way before the internet existed, way before sports management worldwide or kind of online. It was no internet even back when I started. There's a book written by Tony Rizzano called Secrets of an NFL Scout. Tony was the director of player personnel for the San Francisco 49ers under Bill Walsh's heyday. And he was the guy that convinced Walsh to draft some guy named Joe Montana instead of Steve Dills, who Walsh wanted. He wanted Steve Dills. So luckily he didn't get his way on that for 49ers fans. But I mean, this is a fascinating book. When I was given this book by my parents, I mean, it was like love at first sight. I mean, I read it backwards and then tried to read it almost, forwards and backwards, like a subliminal, like a record almost, or music to see if it played a different message. I fell in love with the book. I loved it. And Tony Rizzano does such a great job of sharing all his scouting reports and how to go about doing this and what to look for. And he speaks in layman terms. So as a youngster, I basically, I just started recording games in my bedroom at 17 years old. And I just used all of Rizzano's, different scouting formats and reports and stuff on my typewriter back then. And I'm dating myself, but it's way before I had, you could write on your phone or, anything else. But I would, watch the games and I would look for different things about the players that Rizzano talked about. And I would start writing the reports, and it turned into a 70-page report, a scouting report I wrote at 17. I was in the back of my typing class. In fact, everybody else was working their assignments. I was typing up my scouting reports, which the teacher didn't know, but that was funny. I sent out to Charlie Casserly, who was in the GM of the Redskins at the time, and tried to get an internship at 17. He wrote back. That was really a special thing. He wrote back and said, "Hey, it's a great job. You're still a little too young. Check back with us after college," type of thing. But so I just getting back to your question in a roundabout way, it's if you're listening to this and you can hear my voice right now and you're wanting to get into scouting, the thing of it is just start watching games. There's no shortcuts in this. Just start watching the games, record the games, because there's such a difference between watching a game as from a fan. I mean, I'm a huge fan. You'll see me at the sports bar, having a beer and some wings on Sundays, but there's a big difference between watching a game as a fan and then studying a game as an evaluator. Record the games, start looking at them, see what you can pull up online about scouting, the different attributes of the different positions, and just start writing reports and just get into it. Just dive in off the deep end and just go from there. And there's a lot more resources available today than there ever was when I was coming up.
That is a great answer, because I know, like,
Thank
myself, I study game film, and there's just so many games, so many prospects in NFL. I mean, you've got a crap load of people you've got to watch and look over, but I get the fact there's no shortcuts in it. And, that's truly the fact in everything. There are no shortcuts and anything like that. If you ever want to be a scout, you definitely got to put the work in. Daniel Kelly and his guys over at First Round Mock, they do a fantastic job. Like I said, be sure to follow him on Twitter. It's at First Round Mock, or go to his website, www.firstroundmock.com. And, speaking of, watching game film, man, there's a certain team in Texas. It is not the Cowboys. We're going to save that Cowboys crap for later. But the Houston Texans, they definitely have two picks, two of them in the top 15. I think second, it's 2 and 12 right now. So the thing is that everybody is screaming from Houston to El Paso to Dallas to all the way down the valley that Houston needs a QB. Every mock draft that I've done, for weeks already, and even before, all this even was getting really on fire, I never could see them taking a QB at 2, because I personally don't believe in the top 3 quarterbacks in this class. I feel strongly, just really good about next year's quarterback class when you've got Caleb Williams and Drake May coming out. But for these guys, I think they're going to end up taking one. I still have them, having them see either Stroud or Levis falling to like the 10, 12 spot. And that's where I see them taking a QB. I still don't think they could pass on, knowing as many holes as they need to fill, as many positions. They've got to get, somebody better than just a QB at 2. But looking at all 3 QBs, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and also Will Levis, if you can give us some insight on all 3 guys, where do you have them going? Can we see Houston taking 1 and 2, or will they wait for their second first-round pick to take one of these guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you look at Houston and what they're going to do, I'm respectfully, I'm a lot higher on this quarterback class than that. My QB1 headed into the 2023 NFL draft is CJ Stroud from the Ohio State, right? And got to make sure I get that in there right, like they do when they preview on Monday Night Football. But Stroud is a guy that I compare and have compared on the site to a young, like a Warren Moon type, who's a huge comp, is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Mm-hmm. But that's who goes through my mind when I watch him. And the thing I love about Stroud is there's a few things actually I love about him, and I watched him in a ton of footage too, and a ton of film. Is that his processor, his brain he reads. He has such quick processing. Both pre-snap when he's looking at defenses and post-snap. And this is very critically important. The 2 most important things to me, guys, when I look at quarterback play in the NFL and guys who are coming into it, number 1 is a quick release time. We see the average, league time being 2.5 seconds. We see guys, obviously Tom Brady just retired, but he was, I think, at like 2.3 seconds. Jimmy Garoppolo on the 49ers, 2.3 seconds. Mac Jones, 2.2. These guys are getting rid of the ball quickly. And that's something that Stroud not only reads defenses quickly pre-snap, but also post-snap, and he gets rid of the ball. My affectionate name for Stroud is the human jugs machine. That machine they have at practice, that shoots out the footballs. Yeah. This guy is like a machine. I mean, he just fires, the ball. It's just incredible. And his first love is basketball. So he's, and it's interesting because Stroud runs an offense the way a point guard runs like a basketball offense. There's a rhythm and a tempo, and that's awfully important too. Is the tempo and the rhythm these guys bring to an offense, and he brings that methodical, urgent but relaxed tone that we're just going to keep moving, and he keeps firing the ball. Second thing Stroud does I really love is his ball placement, which I think is really important for quarterbacks and quarterback play in the National Football League. And I'm not talking about completion percentage. This is something I harp on a lot on the site too. I mean, completion percentage, you can have receivers out there. We saw this at BYU with Zach Wilson, jumping, skipping, hopping all over the place, making these circus catches. And that pads the completion percentage. That's not what I'm talking about. The ball placement, the ability to put the ball right on the money where the receiver can run right through the pass and just keep running for the yards after the catch. This is something Stroud really excels at as well. So I think it makes a very easy transition into a team with a poor record, drafting the top 5, because of those 2 factors. And he's tough. He's mobile. He's not a runner, but he's mobile in the pocket. He's going to be able to compensate for some of those offensive line deficiencies. But yeah, I really like CJ Stroud, my QB1. QB2, Bryce Young, University of Alabama. This guy reminds me of a young Fran Tarkenton running around back there. And I was surprised because 2021, I was really hard on him on his game film. He looked jittery in the pocket. His ball placement it seemed like he needed large windows to throw it through in zone coverages. I was right to say send him to the Canadian Football League, to be honest with you guys, after the 2021 film. I was like, what? I looked, but again, that's the thing with the game film. You got to watch a lot of it, and that, getting back to your point too, about, the people wanting to get into scouting, you got to watch a lot of films. So when I watched him in 2022, different guy, confident in the pocket, took command of the pocket, runs around, can extend and create on his feet. And his ball placement is just really on point. I think he's probably, in the 40 years I've been watching the game, I think he probably gives a team with a struggling record the best chance to turn things around the quickest. But I still, Stroud's the better the quarterback of the two in my mind. So I got him QB1, and I got Bryce Young number 2. And Will Levis is a totally different story. Just Will Levis, Kentucky, to me is I have a 7th round draft grade on Will Levis. He was totally and utterly underwhelming to me on game film. This is a guy I labeled him as a 100% chance to be a bust in the National Football League. This guy, he shows that there's a few kisses of death when it comes to quarterbacking, and he has all of them. And what I mean by that is that he's very tentative in the pocket. He's if you watch him on game film, he kind of stands back there and he does that thing with his elbow where he kind of double clutches the ball before he throws it. Mm-hmm. That's a huge no. We talk about a quick release time, and we've seen how guys like Trey Lance and Zach Wilson have gotten killed in the NFL because they can't release it quickly. To me, Levis is another Zach Wilson or Kenny Pickett all over again. Like I talked about in my article, because he's so tentative in the pocket. And that's really going to be tough, because the NFL game, when you ratchet it up to the NFL, it's only even faster at that level, and it's more complex. And if he can't do it at the college level, how is he going to step in and do it in the NFL level on a bad team on top of it? It's this is going to be a nightmare. Plus, he has a high touchdown to interception ratio, even as it is in Kentucky. That's not going to look too pretty either, I don't think, in the NFL. The second thing I don't like about Levis is he has a tendency to hard stare his receivers like two people that meet at a bar and like each other, right? This guy hard stares receivers. And that's a corner's dream to have a guy like that step behind center, because he's telegraphing these throws out to his receivers, which gives the corners even more time to jump the routes and bait the quarterback. That's not going to be pretty. And the third thing is I don't like about Levis is he has what I call tunnel vision. And tunnel vision is like a horse in the Kentucky Derby with the blinders on. This guy, it's good to be downfield focused and not too focused on the rush, but it's not a good thing if it's too extreme. And with Levis, it's too extreme because he's so locked into his receivers, he doesn't feel the pass rush or see it. And he gets clobbered in the pocket as a result of it. Those three things alone, plus number 4, he's got the fourth thing going for him too, is he's got erratic downfield ball placement at the intermediate route level. And he's not that great deep either in the footage I've seen. So, my thing to NFL owners is do anything you can possibly do to stay away from Will Levis, because he doesn't have a chance in the NFL. I'll just put it bluntly.
All perfect assessments here from Daniel Kelly at First Round Mock. You can follow him on Twitter at First Round Mock. And yeah, I can really see a lot of the potential in the quarterbacks. Like I said, for me, it's just I think it has to be the right place, the right time for some of these QBs. I was really good on Levis for a while there, but then towards the end of the year, it's looking a lot more of his game film and looking at it closely, I can really understand the low round grade on him. I've actually got a guy that's kind of going up a little bit more from Fresno State, Jake Herner. I like his game. I think he can actually transition a lot quicker and a lot better than Will Levis can. But I'm even kind of big. And one guy, if I remember correctly, I don't know if you were kind of big on him or had some issues with him, you guys out there at First Round Mock, but for some reason, I see a lot of good things out of Tanner McKee out of Stanford. He's got to be in that right team, in the right system where I think he could flourish. But it's one of those things where I'm kind of like, I'm back and forth on Tanner McKee, but we will see. Daniel gave us some great information on the top QB. So you Houston Texan fans out there, for those of y'all that are old, like obviously Daniel and myself, because we both have been in the typewriter days, as he mentioned earlier. He mentioned Warren Moon and C.J. Stroud, so we've all seen Warren Moon back in the Oiler days. That's definitely a really good thing. Real quick before we go on to Anthony Richardson, and also Rock is salivating because he has this Dallas Cowboy question that he wants to ask. We want to remind you guys about Special Leaf Tea. Again, they have 4 great flavors: pomegranate blueberry, hibiscus blueberry, tangerine ginger, and the original flavor. You want to get all 4, or you just want to get one of them in a 4-pack or a 24-pack, head over to the website now, www.specialleaf.com, to order your drinks today. Daniel, Anthony Richardson out of Florida. Now, probably one of the biggest head scratchers for people going into this draft. A lot of fans are defending him and they love him because, they've seen the glimpses at Florida. But when you've got the guys that actually look at the film like yourself, and for me, I don't see anything in Anthony Richardson. I see all hype. I see no bite at all when it comes to Anthony Richardson. If you can't, explain to people out there, what do you see with Anthony Richardson? Because it's kind of hard for, I guess, the average fan to see, outside of, the razzle dazzle that he brings to Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Rudy. It's what I see in Anthony Richardson is a surefire bust. I see a guy who's a bust waiting to happen. And the surprising thing is that a lot of times, I've been going back and forth. If you bring up my name in San Francisco, people are going to give you a pretty hard reaction. Most people out there in the Bay Area, because I've been going at Trey Lance online for 2 years, going on 3 now on Twitter. And, and those 49ers fans will defend Trey Lance to the end of the earth. Mm-hmm. But when I put my reports out, talking about Anthony Richardson looking like a bust, then I threw him up on Facebook to a few Florida Gators groups. I was amazed at the support. Normally people come against my reports because I'm very different than, as you guys can probably tell, than what most of us see. What we see on the mainstream. If you've seen one mock draft, you've seen all of them just about it. As far as mainstream national platforms, and I was really surprised. But most of the Gators fans out there, they were in agreement with me. They were like, yeah, AR-15, he's not ready. He needs more time. Some people were even more harsh than that. I'm like, wow, if he can't get love from his own fan base, so we better drill into this a little bit more and turn on some more film and look at this. And the thing about Richardson is he puts together a great highlight tape, but when you look at his full body of work, like you're talking about, Rudy, I'm in complete agreement with you about Richardson, because the guy is just he doesn't have it. This guy, I said Trey Lance would be a bust pre-draft 2021. I was probably the only person in the country talking like that. If you go online and look at my report, type in Daniel Kelly Trey Lance, it will pull up. Trey Lance looks like a superstar compared to Anthony Richardson in my mind, and Lance is an absolute is a guy I put an undraftable free agent grade on. To get it to put some perspective on this, Richardson's going to get killed in the end. This is not even going to be pretty, and the reason why is because he has a few things that are not going well for him. Number one, we talked about Stroud having a fast processor, a fast way of processing information. Richardson's just the opposite. This guy takes a long time to understand what he's looking at downfield, even at the college level, which is really, really bad when you project him at, because again, we're going up a level of competition to the NFL. And, he throws some really boneheaded passes. It's like, what were you thinking type of passes, which are really not going to project well either. He's not elite on his feet. This is not Lamar Jackson. This is not Justin Fields. This is, some of his, people are talking about this big touchdown run he had earlier in the season. There wasn't anybody on the defense within 20 yards of him. I could have run that in for a touchdown. This is not Randall Cunningham or John Elway or or anybody. That this is a guy with above average straight line speed. He's not overly elusive in the pocket. He takes a long time. Everyone says, "Oh, look at him run around." Listen, he creates a lot of his own drama because he holds the ball too long and he doesn't understand or nobody's looking at downfield. So he has to scramble because he can't figure out what he's looking at. This is a guy who is an athlete first and a quarterback second, and he's trying to learn the position. He's going to the NFL for his payday, and that is what it is. But and not only that, but he's really got erratic downfield ball placement. I think that against what was it, Georgia this year or something? I think he had like 46% completion percentage. Mm-hmm. And it was overall, I think his completion percentage was like in the low 50s. And if you look back historically, like I have over the last 10 years of quarterback play in the NFL, even 52% completion percentage, I think he has something around that, just from memory. That ranks as like the worst starting quarterback in the league historically every year over the last 10 years. But that's at the college level. So when you look at projecting him up to the NFL level, I think it's just going to be a disaster for Anthony Richardson. I don't see that one. I'm with you, Rudy. I don't see that one at all. The hype machine has gone behind this one. And my advice is we got turn off the Anthony Richardson hype and turn on the Malik Cunningham game film, because to me, I got Stroud 1, Young 2, and Malik Cunningham from Louisville as my QB3 going lower first round.
Heard it here first, man. Heard it here with Daniel Kelly at first round mock. He's got Malik Cunningham top 3. I do not disagree with that. And as far as Anthony Richardson goes, I've said it many, many times. I'm going to say it till my last breath. No matter how many times you polish a turd, it's still a turd. And I think that's the way Anthony Richardson is looking right now. It's all hype. There's no way that if I was a GM for an NFL team, there's no way I even have Anthony Richardson even on my mind at all. So definitely some great stuff coming out from Daniel Kelly. Moment of truth time, because for whatever reason, Cowboy fandom just nips at my ass every single time. And it's always, we them boys, we this, we that. So Rock, this is your time to shine. Bring that most electrifying question, because you are the one that speaks for all of Cowboy fandom. You and Candace speak for all of Cowboy fandom. What do you want to know from Daniel when it comes to America's team? I roll my eyes, the Dallas Cowboys.
No, I just really want to know his thoughts on what would be the best ideal scenario for the Cowboys, whether they stay put, trade down, or try to trade up for a prospect. And I guess just going off that, who's the best person that you can see them drafting or position-wise? Because I've been seeing a lot of mocks either have them go corner, a wide receiver or O-line. I did see one where they got Nolan Smith edge. And you could arguably say that, but then you do have Sam Williams, in the mix already, and he does need more snaps. But I guess to sum it up, what would be the best position for them, and what's the best case scenario for them come draft day?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. For Dallas, and my wife Samantha's going to be listening to this too. She'll tune in for the Cowboys question because she's a Cowboys fan. but I think for the Cowboys, I think that even though I have Jahmyr Gibbs going in the second round, the running back from Alabama, he is the best running back I've seen so far. I could see Dallas reaching up to grab him at running back. Another great pick to me would be I just got done talking about would be Malik Cunningham. Especially if Cooper Rush leaves via free agency, bringing a Cunningham in and putting him behind Dak would be electrifying in a lot of ways. So that'd be a great pick too if they wanted to go quarterback and surprise a lot of people. I think that, corner, you got Diggs at one corner. A couple names that I really I really love would be Eli Ricks, the corner with the big long arms from Alabama, who I affectionately nicknamed the Piranha. He's something out there at corner. He's my CB1 at this point. And another guy that keep, a kind of electric, kind of an all or nothing, but an electrifying playmaker that'd be a very interesting complementary corner to Diggs would be from Mississippi State, Emmanuel Forbes, who's a guy that's got that short area burst. That's a prerequisite for a playmaker at corner. He's got that swag, that air of confidence. A lot of ways, he reminds me a little bit of Ahmad Gardner. He's got some of that to his game, and it's there's a couple things you got to do. I mean, it's about in the NFL, it's about passing the ball. It's a passing league right now, right? I mean, I think 28 out of 32 teams pass for more than 50% of the time. 10 teams of those 28, I think, are over 60%, and so it's a passing league. So it all comes down to a defense being able to get to the quarterback and be able to stop the pass. And if you paired, I always look for, what's the way that you can move the meter the fastest. And if you were to bring in a corner like an Eli Ricks or an Emmanuel Forbes and plug him in the opposite side, I don't know how many teams could really have a whole lot of success thrown against the boys down there in Dallas.
Yeah, that is true. I like them taking a cornerback as well around that pick, but for whatever reason, I always go back to, I think this is a good amount of cornerbacks in this draft. The cornerback position is pretty stacked, and I think with the Cowboys, going corner would be ideal, but I still think they should probably go offensive line. I mean, you might even see a Cody Mock still there, maybe a Matthew Bergeron out of Syracuse. I think solidifying that offensive line, getting it back to the way it was when the Cowboys were the Cowboys, that's where all my signs point to. Do you maybe see that for the Dallas Cowboys, knowing they pick, I believe it's 26, and I don't buy Mel Kiper's bullshit about Bijan Robinson. As much as Rock is a Texas Longhorn fan as well, Rock is a massive Longhorn fan, I still don't buy the Bijan hype, and Mel's just being Mel and getting all the radio people down here excited because of Bijan staying in Texas. No, my signs point to O-line. How do you feel on Dallas, maybe looking at an offensive lineman around there?
That's very possible. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, that's not the most glamorous pick, but it's one of the most needed picks, to solidify the offensive line, to give the quarterback, whoever's back there, whether it's, Dak or whoever, if he got hurt or something, you have to have a great offensive line. And so you can never go wrong with a great offensive lineman in the first round.
Yeah, there's even one guy that I've got circled, and I've had him circled for a while, and that's John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota.
I like him a lot. Yeah, I like him a lot.
I keep trying to sell all these guys. They're like, who? I said, no, let me put it this way. Remember the year that they drafted Travis Frederick and y'all were all pissed off and crying about it? And what does he do? He turns into, Hall of Fame type center. This is exactly who John Michael Schmitz is. Go get him. That'll solidify the offensive line for years and years to come.
Yeah, I agree. He's this year's Tyler Linderbaum, the center we saw go to Baltimore last year. Mm-hmm. That's this guy. I mean, and he's very, very impressive on his 2021 game film. I still have to go back. I mean, there's more guys to look at than there is hours in the day, literally. Mm-hmm. So I still have to go back and look at him on his 2022 game film before I stamp him with his final 2023 NFL grade. But everything I have seen, I agree with you. Everything I've seen off his 2021 game film, John Michael Schmitz is legit. He's the real deal, and he's I don't know why. I still haven't figured out how every year the national media just seems to like fall in love with certain guys, and other years they don't. But I'm serious that John Michael Schmitz, he's this year's Tyler Linderbaum, the first round center was taken for Baltimore last year.
Yeah, he's going to make a team very, very happy. Rock, I'm going to give it to you before we go, man. Do you got anything more on the Cowboys? Because I don't want to hear any crying after we're done here.
Nah, I mean, he kind of covered the bases. I mean, I guess the one popular question, obviously the Cowboys need to get some help for CeeDee Lamb. Is there any possible scenario where you see them make a kind of a splashy pick and go wide receiver? And if so, like who would be that wide receiver you would take late in the first round? Yeah,
that's a good question. I think that, I think there's a handful of guys. I mean, I got 5 receivers mocked in the first round at this point with final 2023, draft grades on. And my wide receiver 1 is A.T. Perry from Wake Forest. And my number 2 guy is Josh Downs from North Carolina. My number 3 guy is Jordan Addison from USC. Number 4 from Ohio State, I'm sorry. Jackson Smith, the Jigma, and number 5 is Zay Flowers over at BC at Boston College. I think that in that area where the Cowboys are picking, if they could possibly, I think both Downs is going to wreck NFL defenses. I don't know if there's a corner out there that could even cover him as a number 2. He's got just razor sharp change of direction, which is going to leave corners in the dust. Addison's quick as a hiccup too, and he's got a short area burst coming in and out of his routes. I don't think he'll be there by the time the Cowboys pick, but the jury is really out on Jackson Smith and the Jigma. And I tell you what, the receivers at Ohio State, ever since I started watching this group, with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and with Jackson Smith, the Jigma, from the first time I turned on the game film, and I love Garrett Wilson. I mean, Garrett Wilson was my wide receiver 1 pre-draft document headed into last draft, and so I say this, knowing that is Jackson Smith the Jigma was my favorite receiver on the whole group. And of course he was hurt a lot of the year. There's some question, could he have played, should he have played, the hamstring, all the stuff that went on, the political stuff. But I tell you what, if there's any way that Dallas Cowboys could get a Jackson Smith and the Jigma, I mean, he's got my nickname for him is Gumby. He's so flexible. He's got that wobble to him. Kind of like, you remember Merton Hank's neck for the 49ers? His whole body does that kind of that wobble and that wiggle. I mean, and that's what you're looking for as a number 2 receiver. They could plug in, next to a CeeDee Lamb. If Dallas doesn't take Jackson Smith, the Jigma, I just cringe thinking of like Minnesota getting him with pairing with Justin Jefferson or Buffalo getting him with Stephon Diggs. Because this guy's got it's all about the break point. It's all about that's the biggest thing at that level as a number 2 receivers, because most of your routes are going to be those short bubble screens for the yards after the catch, and then getting into the intermediate levels, break off routes, when you got quickly change directions. Jackson Smith, the Jigma, is going to be a lot of trouble. And every team, kind of like years ago with Randy Moss, when all those, that whole fiasco thing, this time Dallas can be the one that gets the guy, because whoever passes on Jackson Smith and the Jigma is going to be the team that's trying to figure out how to cover him. If the Dallas Cowboys could get Jackson Smith and Jigma, he's on the board. That's like the apple hanging in the Garden of Eden for Jerry Jones. I think he probably takes him.
There you go, Rock. And, before we get going here, I do want to mention one guy, Rock. If for whatever reason they pass on Jackson or they pass on some of these guys, one kid, and he's not even a kid, he's old. He's kind of old regarding, in NFL terms, basically coming out of college. But Charlie Jones out of Purdue, I think as a Cowboy fan, y'all would like him. Y'all would really like him. That would be one guy I think y'all would definitely like. So keep that name in mind as well. Hey, we're gonna talk more to Daniel Kelly again. You can follow him on Twitter. It's at First Round Mock. Again, it's Daniel Kelly, former NFL scout for the New York Jets. If you know, go to his website. Tons of great articles. Him and his staff do a fantastic job on covering all the prospects, getting you ready for the NFL Draft 2023. It is firstroundmock.com. Daniel, I appreciate your time. This won't be the only time you'll be back on with us. I hope to have you on many, many more times, talking many more prospects, possibly get you back on for a actual Sweep the League show where we can just go off the rails like we normally do. But again, much love, man. I appreciate you joining Rock and myself tonight. We're looking forward to doing many, many more shows with you, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate those kind words, Rudy, and Rock as well. Affectionately called Rocky. Maybe if we go off the rails, maybe I could wear a Bullwinkle thing like you're talking about or something like that. Maybe we could do a visual. That'd be kind of cute and kind of fun and talking players. But you guys do a great job. And from the bottom of my heart, being the founder of firstroundmock.com and, bringing William Yanish on and some of our writers and stuff, I just want to say a very special thank you to you guys. You guys really grind. You do a great job with the show, and I really appreciate you guys for the love you've shown us and the retweets and everything else, because the only thing harder than getting into the NFL is trying to crack this national narrative. So I appreciate the love you guys show and the job that you do, and I look forward to being on more for sure whenever you invite me on, or any of my guys for sure.
Oh yeah, we would definitely have you guys on. Appreciate the words from you, sir. It is an honor to work with you and all your staff as well. So again, thank you for coming on. Rock, you got any last words for anybody, Rock, before we go?
Nah, man, just stay cool, brothers.
I figured that's what you were going to say. So for the electrifying one, for Daniel Kelly of First Round Mock, again, follow him on Twitter at First Round Mock. It's Rudy Thomas Jr. Until we decide to sweep the league again, we'll see y'all next time.